we're gonna go A, B.
Give me like what do you want to do? Because we
We just need to bring the chorus out.
There's a thing of them right there.
Here. Who else wants? Chorus, chorus. It's not good.
not chorus verse.
Oh,
there's no question.
So that's so.
Here, show it to me. Or else I could just like I can't follow how you're doing it. Show it to me.
So Micha Mocha, Nora Tehillah. Micha Mocha, Malchutecha, Micha Mocha. Oh, sorry. Micha Mocha, Nora. Micha Mocha. This whole section is Micha Mocha.
And so, yeah, so you're just gonna come up and we're gonna lower All right, good. Glad you had dinner. Everyone made it in? Yes.
That's fine. And we're going to do the Sephardic. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I will start to move faster. I've got different thinking patterns. Okay. Shabbat Shalom.
Hello. It's your first outdoor service, right?
No, second.
Oh, second.
Because we've had Shabbat Shalom, we are on page 10. Continue welcoming one another in song Shalom Aleichem. We say to welcome one another and the messengers of peace that greet us on Shabbat, page 24. This is a contemporary melody that's nice for a garden setting. Here we are. Like this.
You know this as the Tulsa melody because that's where we learned it. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharit, Malachi Hasharit, Malachi Elyon.
השלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, מי מלך, מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש, הקדוש ברוך הוא. Shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem LeShalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mi Melech, Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom. I always say that there are 4 days in spring, 4 beautiful days. We had one last week. This is number 2. Don't count on tomorrow or Sunday. So Shabbat is all about giving thanks for what we have, and we have all this, and we're together, and that is a blessing to be with family and friends. It's a blessing as we get ready to celebrate, as Sophia Wichman is called to the Torah as a bat mitzvah, which is really a wonderful, wonderful member of our Temple Beth David community, or especially our 7th grade class. So please take a moment, greet those around you with a Shabbat Shalom. You can wave at our camera and greet those who are watching from around the world, perhaps. I can see everything. Okay. If I get shot first, it's my left pocket. Okay. What? Yeah.
We're going to now bring in the light of Shabbat, and again, if you're here for your first outdoor service, just wonderful to breathe in the air and slow down a little bit and appreciate this space and this time together. So it's an honor to invite Sophia's mother, Michelle, which been forward to bless our Shabbat candles this evening, and we're on pages 2 and 3. Yeah. Yes.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Okay.
I know.
You got it. Okay. There you go. Excellent.
It's just like the grill. Oh, that's we got one. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Okay. Shabbat Shalom.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam Continue on page 20 with L'Chadodi as we welcome in the Sabbath bride. We'll join in verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And on the last verse, you may rise in body or in spirit and face our trees as we bring Shabbat in.
L'Chadodi
likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. L'Chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. L'Chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. L'Chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. B'zachor v'dibor echad, ishtianu el hamenucha Adonai echad, shemo echad, v'shiru tiferet v'nitila. L'Chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. L'Chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. Shabbat le'uvenecha, yimevor ha'beracha, le'rosh mikedem eslecha, t'omase b'machshavat tefila. L'Chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. L'Chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. Yitoreri, yivaorech u'miori, shivaveri, kevod Adonai Elai tikrat. L'Chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. L'Chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. Oi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzom olam, toch emunei am segula. Oi chala, L'Chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. L'Chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. If you're able to remain standing and turn now to page 26 for Chatzi Kaddish, which will bring us into the formal call to prayer of our service. Yitgadal v'yikadash shemei rabba, be'alma divrachu v'yam nichmachu b'chayechon u'v'yom echon u'v'chayedecho beit Yisrael. Bagala, u'v'zman kariv v'yimeru. Yahei Shmei Rabba mevorach, le'olam olam me'amaya, yitbarach, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitroma, v'yitlaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shebei kudsha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma ve'yimeru. Amen. page 30 with our blessing for creation. If you can count a little bit, we're going to be 7 lines down in the English and 9 lines down in the Hebrew as these words speak to the changing of time and changing of seasons. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. For Yom Halayla, Golel or Mivnei Choshech, Golel or Mivnei Choshech, Vechoshech Mivnei Or. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into night, night becomes day, day turns to night. For Yom Halayla, Golel or Mivnei Choshech, Golel or Mivnei Choshech, Vechoshech Mivnei Or. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. And let's join together on the top of page 33. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. May be seated, and it is an honor to invite Sophia forward to lead us in the words from Torah on page 36, and we'll invite you to chant along with her in the Hebrew.
בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לפניך ודיברת בם בשיטתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher Hotzeiti Lechem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot Lachem Lelohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. It's good to have your brother and other fifth grade students to follow along. We link those words that remind us that God freed us from the land of Egypt to Michamocha, our song of the sea, our ongoing message of hope and redemption. Page 40, sing our song of the sea.
Maybe those of you, oh, go ahead, after you.
An older melody with a new rhythm. Yaakov, Ugalomi Chazak Mimanu, Baruch Atah Adonai, God Israel. Continue on page 42. In the Torah, clouds are seen as a symbol of God's sheltering presence. So under our shelter of sky tonight, we pray Hashkivenu that we may all be surrounded by God's Sukkot Shalom, God's shelter of peace. And we'll add a few English words as well, page 42. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukkot shalom lecha, ufros aleinu sukkot shalom lecha. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen.
Shabbat, we sing of that covenant that our people has kept for generations. Page 44.
Sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat Shabbat vayina afash Shabbat Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat Shabbat vayinafash. We rise now in body or in spirit, page 46, as we move into our tefillah, the central prayer of our service, which will begin with words of praise, and then a little time to add the prayers from our hearts as well. Page 46. Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, U'mevii Geulah libnei bneihem, Leman Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah rav le'hoshia, Morid hatal, Mechakel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'ofech cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha b'gevurot, Umido melach, Melech menit umechayeh, Umasmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, V'chayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shecha kadosh, U'kdoshim b'chol yom ya'alucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el hakadosh. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Continue silently, and please feel free to be seated when you're ready. As we conclude this central prayer with words of peace, as we do each week, I offer a special prayer for non-violence by Rabbi Karen Kadar, as we mourn again innocent lives lost through senseless acts of hatred in our country, in Buffalo and New York, in Southern California, and this Shabbat, as hopefully every day we stand in solidarity as Jews with Black Americans, and we pause especially to add this prayer for nonviolence. God of life and maker of all creation, every act of violence in our world, in our communities, in our homes, destroys a part of your creation. Stir in our hearts a renewed sense of reverence for all life. Give us the vision, the wisdom, and the courage to create a community of safety for our children. Guide us in your ways so that we may break the cycle of violence. This we believe, that peace, love, and healing begin with us. Tonight, let us begin. Continue on page 62 as we ask God, who makes peace above, to bring peace here amongst all of us and all people. Oh, say shalom. In love. Oh, say shalom. In love. Uya ase shalom. Uya ase shalom. Uya ase shalom. Aleinu. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, say our prayer for healing on page 253 as we take this moment in our service to pray for loved ones who are ill at this time. We pray for their physical health, emotional health, mental health, and especially pray for those who care for them as well. We are thinking of these members of our community: Colin Monroe, Mary Lou Hole, Janet Watson, Elizabeth Hill, Enrico Mascaro, Deborah Booker, Robert Bloom, Benjamin Horowitz, Bradley Dichter, Mateo Goldman, Toby Weiner, Essia Rushovskaya, Amy Fasberg-Kurz, Eileen Arnone, Marilyn Breyer, Jean Sands, Roseanne Cohen, Tom Fiorino, Barry Levine, Caroline Weil, Stephen Driscoll, Richard Slifka, Marshall Lukoff, and Anna. If there are other names you would like to mention out loud, you can. To share some names out loud through the microphone for on live stream as well. Jerry Spingarn and Rabbi Zub and Barbara Zub, who, as we've heard, are healing and doing better from COVID. So I have a question for all of you, and you can maybe raise your hand if you would answer yes. Has anyone here ever experienced a sabbatical? Yes? 1, 2. Can you just tell us quickly, maybe if you can stand, I'll repeat it into the microphone. What was the context and what did you do?
I was an academic.
So an academic sabbatical.
So it's great to have a year we just
So a year to focus on research without teaching, without...
I only had to teach one class a year. I was putting research. Yes, the idea was no students for a year, but you still had some doctoral students. But pretty much 95% of the time you spend it in cash.
Great. Well, tell us after the service what you researched.
I had to do with branding.
And how many years ago was this?
Oh gosh. Well, you guys, a lot of you weren't born.
All right, we'll leave it at that.
You were born.
We'll leave it at that. And what was the nature of your sabbatical?
I'm also an academic.
Right.
But I had so many commitments administratively, and also even really with my students, back in my home lab, that I actually made an arrangement to do a sabbatical cross town in a neighboring lab with friends of mine. But it just didn't take. So I had too much to do.
Too much to do. All right. And, Mark, hold that thought. So, and was it a year-long sabbatical?
Ostensibly.
Okay. All right. So for those on live stream, another academic and taking a break at least from the administrative aspects of the job with some increased learning, but maybe a little bit too much. And has anyone taken an extended vacation? Yes. Okay. We've all done that. That's good. Well, first of all, I have to thank the Temple Beth David community, especially the leadership, because as I'm moving into my next contract, so next year will be year 7, and I am incredibly grateful that I'm going to have some sabbatical time. Don't worry, it's not a whole year, and it's not to be taken all at once. So I'll share more about that, but I am delighted that I will have this gift of time. So last week, Rabbi Micah taught us about the centrality of holy time in Judaism, specifically the weekly holiday of Shabbat. Less known, perhaps, but no less central in the Jewish cycle of time is the Shemitah, or year of release. By the way, Shemitah is not connected to Shmata, we checked. The Shemitah year is more widely known as the sabbatical year. This year in the Jewish calendar, 5782, is actually a Shemitah year. Just as the Torah calls for Jews to work 6 days and rest on the 7th day, this week our Torah portion calls for us to work the land for 6 years and to let it rest on the 7th. Then after 49 years, 7 cycles of 7, the 50th is called the Yovel, or the Jubilee year. However, according to historical accounts, the Jubilee year has not been marked for centuries. But even in our time, the sabbatical year is still observed. In the Shemitah year, according to Parashat Behar, our weekly Torah portion, debts are to be forgiven, agricultural lands to lie fallow, private land holdings to become open to the community, and all food storage and harvests to be freely redistributed and accessible to all. This Parashat Behar, the word itself means mountain, and it begins with a curious detail. Leviticus 25 opens with the following words, "And God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying." So many times our Torah portions begin with that phrase, "and God spoke to Moses," but here we have on Mount Sinai, Behar, Sinai. And going on to say, "When you enter the land that I'm giving you, the land shall observe a sabbatical year of Adonai." The rabbis ask, why does the Torah specifically state that this commandment of all other commandments was spoken on Mount Sinai? Weren't all the commandments given at Mount Sinai? That's obvious. One possible answer is that these laws dealing with the sabbatical year and the release of debts are the core of Jewish values and belief. They reflect our ancestors' yearning to build a just and fair society. Most mitzvot are performed in a moment or in a day. This one takes an entire year. Another possibility is that the idea that everything ultimately belongs to God, that we are but temporary dwellers on earth, all of us strangers, is so unusual, so radical, that human beings could not have derived this on our own. It had to come from God on Mount Sinai. Could we have really envisioned such a radical redistribution of wealth and resources? It certainly feels different from where we find ourselves today. There is one other curious word in the first chapter of Behar. These verses were not only embraced by our biblical ancestors, they were also embraced as an ideal by the founders of our country. The Liberty Bell in Philadelphia did not get its name when it was cast in England. Rather, the name came later when abolitionists in our country chose to inscribe the verse from Leviticus chapter 25, verse 10, onto the bell. "You shall proclaim liberty throughout the land for all its inhabitants. Ukratem dor ba'aretz."
Now, this word dror, liberty, stands out as unusual because the normal or more common word for freedom is cherut. Rashi explains that the word dror is related to the word dar, or dwells, and refers to one who dwells within his own domain and does not fall under other people's control. Someone who is comfortable in his or her own skin. To be free is to be one's own person, guided by what you know to be good and true, not what someone else tells you it is. Now, dror is also a type of bird whose very essence expresses this notion. The commentator Ibn Ezra explains that the dror bird happily sings when free to its own devices. But if captured and stuck in another person's domain, it refuses to eat when it loses its freedom. The dror bird exists to be completely free from the possibility of servitude. Needless to say, the term dror gives new meaning to being free as a bird. These words from Torah come to us as a much needed reminder this week of the value of every human life, that we are not truly free until all are free from servitude, injustice, and hatred. Given that this is a Shemitah year, you might be interested to know about different communal and organizational responses in Israel and around the world. One of my favorites is an organization called Chazon, a Jewish organization that works to create a healthier, more sustainable, and more equitable world for all. On their website, chazon.org, you can check out their Shemitah project, Shemitah blog, Shemitah Vision Summit, and, for those who've done the work, Shemitah prizes. They provide environmental, economic, and personal challenges for an entire year of a more sustainable and spiritually meaningful way of living. So this Shabbat, we take a moment to look down from the mountain, from the Har. This heightened view can sometimes change our perspective. So too can a year-long time out, a rest, a release. Rabbi Milton Steinberg taught that the Shemitah year is about embracing the world with more relaxed hands and more open arms. May we use this time and perspective well. Shabbat Shalom. By the way, tune in tomorrow morning for another interpretation of Parashat Bahar. I won't give it away, Sophie. Speaking of which, you are welcome to join us here in our sanctuary at 10:30 in the morning as Sophia Wichman is called to the Torah as a bat mitzvah and to celebrate with your family, Mazel Tov. And also 9 a.m. we have our lay-led Shabbat morning minyan, both in the library in person if you'd like, or the Zoom link is available as well.
Yeah, a few other things. Just first, a word for David Wang. I'm as free as a bird now. Thought you'd appreciate Freebird, right?
The Beatles version.
I don't know the Beatles version. Oh, that's Free as a Bird. This is Freebird. All right. Did you mention other Shabbat morning options?
I did, yes.
You did. Okay. So a few other things you need to. Yes.
Just mention today's Cynthia Atkins' birthday.
Is today
is
Cynthia
it?
Atkins' birthday? If we're Mazel Tov to Cynthia. Hopefully Cynthia's watching. She came up. And if you want to wish Itai and Yona a happy half birthday, that's today. You're welcome, boys. There we go. So you share something with Cynthia Atkins. How about that? Kind of. I'm probably grounded when I get
Cynthia
home.
and Harvey did make it for our May birthday blessing, so they
did.
both came up.
Yeah,
They
thank you
did.
for sharing that. That's great. That's a simcha.
These are founding members of our temple community.
The youngest 90-something-year-olds you'll ever meet.
93 or 94.
Yeah.
I think she said 93.
93. Harvey's 96. Yeah, drove by, saw him in the garden the other day. The annual meeting is this Thursday evening. You can attend in person or you can attend via Zoom All the information is in your shofar. I believe we're starting at
7:30.
7:30.
Yes.
And we need a quorum, and it's important business, so please do attend either virtually or in person.
And it's a great way to hear highlights of the year, add your voice, vote on important matters, and but if you're here visiting for Sophia's Bat Mitzvah, you're not a member. Sorry, it is for Temple members. Oh, yes, and if for in person, we are shifting to requiring masks.
Indoors.
For indoors, yes.
Indoors, masks and gatherings. June 3rd at 6:30 p.m. We're 2 weeks out. Confirmation. Brandon Popper will be confirmed. Brandon Popper is the rose among the four thorns. No, I'm just kidding. He's the only boy in the class, though, so we try to give him a little bit of love. They don't pick on him too badly. You know. Anyway, they've prepared a lovely service and reflections, so please do join us.
And everything else, read your weekly shofar email. It is all in there. And if you're feeling a little cool, appreciate it because the heat is coming. If you're able, we rise now for our concluding prayers. Aleinu Shabbat is on page 282. Aleinu Shabbat Ladon Hakol Latekidu Laliotzer Brishit Shalom Kalkenu Kahem V'gor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam V'anachnu Korim Umishtachavim Umodim Lifnei Melech Machei HaMachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'ne'emar V'haya Adonai L'melech al kol ha'aretz Bayom hahu Yeh Adonai echad U'shamo echad.
The psalmist teaches us to count our days that we might have a heart of wisdom, and we're in a season of counting right now, counting from Passover to Shavuot. So if you turn to page 279, turn to page 279, you can find, 278, you can find our blessing. So we'll make our blessing and we'll count our Omer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer hayom chamisha v'shloshim yom shehem chamisha shavuot la'omer. Today is the 35th day of the Omer, which is 5 weeks exactly of the Omer, 35 days. And so as we count our days, we also think about loved ones who are no longer with us. We count the days that they spent with us as a blessing. We number those days as precious. We're in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning and remembrance for Annalie Stone, aunt of Bonnie Wellens, and Henry Large, dear friend of Mark Albion. It is the Yartzeiten this Shabbat of Miriam Mickey Allen, Nathaniel Eston, Edna Glasgow, Archie Kaufman, Barnett Lubenstein, Pauline Lubenstein, Ann Pear, Leatrice Robinson, Louise Rock, Jack Sender, Stephen Silk, Israel M. Stryer, and Scott Wang. And if you're remembering someone this Shabbat, either at home or here at the synagogue, I invite you to share your loved one's name out loud. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing, and we join together on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma tivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'hagala v'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh,
Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal,
Shmit Kudsha Brichu, Le'elam Micho Birchata V'shirata, Tishbachata V'nechemata, Damiram Ve'alma V'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabbanim Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom V'ramav, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael
V'imru. Amen. We're going to invite Sophia back up to lead us in the blessings of Kiddush and Motzi, and we're on page 5. So we're going to join in these blessings together and then conclude our service. And then thank you to Sophia, to your family, for sponsoring our oneg tonight for some sweets.
Yeah, sure, I think. All right, here you go. Yeah, you hold definitely this too. Okay, I'll hold this, kind of like that. Okay, go for it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech borei pri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech asher kitshanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinhilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom tehila lemikra kodesh zecher l'tziyat Mitzrayim ki anu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon kinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim.
All right,
Here, you can
and
Oh, yeah. You know, why don't you go with Rabbi Karen, and you're going to take this right here.
I was gonna bring it over.
Yeah, are you sure?
Yeah.
All right. It's a heavy challah board.
All right, so after we bless, we will bring this over to the oneg table. So, Sophia, if you would lead us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, Shabbat Shalom. Mazel tov.
We're going to conclude on page 321 with Adon Olam, Sweet and Light French Sephardic version. Adon Olam Hashem alav v'terpo utzir nivra ve'inasa v'chefsopo azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra ve'acharim michot hakol le'vadom u'yimavno
Tim Hollander for live streaming. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Was it? We never